안녕하세요. Big pleasure to be here. First of all, I would thank Professor Hong for the friendly introduction of mine. And you are all the, how can I say, the guys who have to get a lecture at 7 at night. That is, of course, is normal in Korea, right? I already thought I have to have worries about you to listen to a boring lecture for 2 hours. But I promise I will try to do my best not to talk too much about company details. Please go through. You're welcome. But to have a bit more time for a discussion. I would like that very much. A discussion that we can exchange a bit our views about life, that if you have any question, what I could recommend for a big career or not so big or whatever you want to know, would be a pleasure to discuss that. Well, you see, we talk about, as we are the, let me say, innovation leader in the car industry, you see, I have most modern technology with me today. That was a couple of years ago, 120, but I will come back to that. But even much more important in my view, and that goes already not so much into company, I would like to start with something completely different. What had a certain impact into my life a long time ago. This was a company seminar we had, and this guy had the task, it was a kind of mental stability, yeah, to give. I was a salesperson at that time, and sales is not always funny in modern times, you can imagine, yeah. Everybody wants to bring you in price down. There are many tools how to smash you down. Please, yeah, just feel free. Come in. I was too early. And this guy, a psychologist, he more or less collected all the knowledge of great philosophers of world religion and tried to teach us a bit. And he started with a thing I would like to do with yourself as well. As he was saying to us, you know, first of all, just if you decide, I mean, you are in a very prestigious university and can have more or less any future you want to have. But first of all, you need to decide for yourself what is the most important thing in life. And he did a nice exercise with us. I'd like to do with you as well. There is such an easy tool. Look, made from wood. And we have here just about 100 centimeters. 100. And now imagine, and that is easy, every centimeter would be 1 living year. 1 year of your life. And then I have a very good message first. In your age, you have a very big chance to run through all here, to become 100 years old, or even older. For me, that will be already a bit limited, I think. Yeah? Not sure if I can make that. But now we do a different exercise. If one of you just shows me roughly, if this is 1 living year, 1 centimeter, where he is already now. So I just walk, not to you, you can keep this. I walk to this young man here. So if we go, I mean, you must not be absolutely precise, okay? Your secret, but roughly where we are on this scale.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be bigger.
I will not show it directly, okay? To have some secret. But you see, and this is very important. I take this again. You see, if it's 100, and that is many years, we passed already in this young age quite something, right? And the not so good message is, you know, you have a high probability for this 100, but no guarantee. Life can end tonight or tomorrow, yours and mine. And so I will not go too deeper. I see it already. Not the topic you expected. But what you should do is, you should always know what is the most important? What are the most important things in your life? And I know what I'm talking about, you know. I spend a bit too much time for career, could be, and not enough with the family, you see. So whatever it is, you know, priority, and I would then ask you, give you a minute time, and write down the three most important, many of you might have thought about, three most important things when you know life ends. What do I want to have achieved? What is the most important? And that can be a big career, that can be money, that can be family, that can be supporting others in need, that can be many, many things, yeah. But you just should be aware of what it is. As this life is so dynamic and is getting more and more dynamic, it can be just over and then you recognize, I missed it all. So please do me a favor only for yourself. Write down what you see as most important for you. I have to ask one question. Smokers, now be honest, where are smokers? Ah, hidden smokers. Brave man, brave man. What I need to tell you is there is one slightly bad message. That is your expectation, okay? But you can change this anytime, yeah? That's fine already. I mean, if you would be one of those without any idea, then I would just recommend do it at home. Do it at home, and I mean what you know as well, and what this man told us at that time is, if you have a very strong wish, might be it is CEO Samsung, or might be it is healthy families with children, then it's very, very important to think about this, you know. In the morning, you wake up, bed, and you see in a picture this family, 3 children, nice house somewhere, and if you visualize, your life will go in such a direction, of course with no guarantee, but it's an automatic thing, as you might know. But you must thesis ahead where you want to go and what you want to be. Good. So this as a start. Now we come back to this modern technology. I will, of course, talk a bit about leadership and how I think leadership should be, or can change things, or can contribute. We have a special headline for today. The game has changed, owns the future. And this is just a copy, I have to say. We had a CEO conference in Seoul just 2 weeks ago. 500 CEOs of foreign companies working in Korea. 90% of them Korean people. We recognized, and I think you all know, the world is changing faster than ever. Again, I have now, here's the advantage, I'm a bit older. So if I think back, you know, my life, how I grew up on a small farm in southern Germany, that was very much closer to this here, yeah? Than today. And if you see this here, this is very much closer to Stone Age than what we see today. So if you think, as I'm old but not such old, yeah, this small 50, a bit over 50 years, what changed? And if I then look how the dynamic is, you know, how faster it changes now, it will be incredible what you will see in your time. And of course, this will have a very big impact into our lives and into industry as well, to business life. That's crystal clear. But I think anyway you hear this every day. So what we just now see, you know, these big macro trends as climate change, scarcity of raw materials, we need renewables, demographics, urbanization, all these things. All this will go faster and faster and change our lives, and we have to adapt. And so the topic was a bit, how can industry survive? And principally I was, I think at least, invited as one example. Company is 127 years old now, and we saw some changes in our time, and we were very resilient, very resistant. So we lost the company twice completely after the war, clear. So after First World War, Second World War, and our company was then led. We had a big company after First World War in the US, America, by Americans, but that all died. And the old root company started again and became a worldwide enterprise. So the question was a bit why? What is behind? And today I try to focus a bit on that before we then really come to the more personal career and other thing. So what changed, to give you one example, and that is, by the way, what will change, from the horses to this one. So this car, or kind of those cars, will be very, very soon on the roads. Completely automatic driving, where you don't need to drive yourself anymore. Some might be happy, some not. But I think still you can drive yourself if you want. But we see this, and I come to that back at the end of my presentation, in a 10 years' time. This is technically possible. Big question is, of course, other things. If two robots have a crash, who is the one who pays, and the guilty one? So there is, from legislation, a lot of questions open. But the technique will be there in a 10 years' time. Okay. So now to change, and this is an interesting one, you all will know. Any idea where this could be? Difficult to say, I think. Is it Korea? It is Europe, and it is Rome, and it is the Vatican. And what you see are just tourists. You see here the crowd, tourists looking at the paintings, at the architecture in 2005. And now we will have a look 2013 to show you a bit a change that happened. This is 2013, you see? Here you see in a very dramatic way. And this is young people and old people standing there, how the world is changing. And I mean, this is not just for taking pictures, this changes our daily life, as you know, with Naver and Facebook and Kakao Talk and whatever we have. Okay? Now we come back to more to the horse time again, right? This is founder of our company. And if you look when he was born, 1861, and in the age of his 20s, he founded already a company. So you must speed up, right? He was a very, very special man of his time, and I think this is the reason that he still has such an impact into our company after such a long time. He was a bit stubborn, to come first to the negative side, a bit stubborn, but he was driven by high values in his time, ethical and moral values. He never gave up, and this is amazing. So this is one, and we how can I say, over the decades, many people laughed about how can you as a large company follow so naive things, as I would rather lose money than trust, or integrity of my promises. And especially 70s, 80s, 90s, many people said this is old-fashioned, as the global world is running different, Just be fast, sharp, take what you can take, high profits, all those things. It changed a bit, so many look now again back to our company approach. It changed a bit when we had the financial crisis, 2008. Then it changed. Then people suddenly understood just being smart combined with criminal energy, that this is not good, and it's absolutely not good in banks or financial institutions. Nowadays we are modern again, yeah, but this can change again, I don't know. Our company doesn't care too much about that. But what I want to start with is a bit, the company itself is a very special one, yeah. So you can like it or not, that is all okay to me, yeah. I have no problem with that. But a company of this size, we are very, very special, as we still are rooted very, very much in what this founder believed in. And that a company only will exist a long time, and now I start with how can you survive? If the company makes sense, you know, if the company contributes to society from what it does, save jobs, caring about people, customers as well, of course, but that is not the only sense and priority to make as much money as you can. That's not our priority. Okay. So as you should do when you start your company, very often at the beginning is a great idea, yeah, as Mark Zuckerberg and his Facebook, connect people. That was a bit different, of course, in the 19th century. So his big idea was this nice little machine, and this can generate sparks to ignite the combustion engine of cars. And that was an unsolved problem in his time, you know. When Daimler started with first cars at that time, then Ford was already starting to go in bigger volumes with his Taylorism and new production technology. But they had no clever solution how to ignite, how to get the combustion. Yeah, exactly. So that was how you had to start. And they had at that time open fire, you know, gas fire. And then some valves opening to the fire, closing to the fire, with the effect that every fifth of the car was burning down. Yeah, and that the engines were very limited in the speed, of course. And with this one, that was then solved this principal problem, and made it possible, more or less, yeah, to bring really high volume cars on the street. And what he did very often, I have to say, this was already invented. And I think you can see that very, very often in inventions in general. It was invented, but stationary, yeah, for big machines in somewhere in plants or so. And he had just the idea, take it, make it smaller, and put it into a car. So very often you can generate, you know, a blue ocean strategy, take just existing things and make something new, as Apple did with the first smartphone. Or it was even not the first, yeah, but they just marketed it in a proper way. So this was a breakthrough, and then we were, based on this, very, very international, as Ford was absolute number one with his Tin Lizzie, where he said you can have any color you want as long as it's black. You might remember. So 90% of our sales was in America at that time. Till First World War, I mentioned, and then we lost this all. Okay. So this is a company today. I don't want to make too much advertising. Not the largest, but not small, I would say, with over 50 billion euros turnover. What we have is still, and what we don't like too much, 60% very dominant in the automotive sector. And we always try to minimize risk a bit, yeah. And 60% you are really very dependent. And we saw this in the crisis 2008. Our automotive business went down 25%. And that was a hard hit. All the other business were running much more stable in this crisis. As we have here the industrial technology, that is, to give you one example, gearboxes for wind turbines, renewable energy. As we have energy and building, here we see a big future, I have to say. As the buildings, it's lousy, yeah, how we deal with energy. So there is an estimation we could save about 50% of the energy buildings use if we would do it in a proper way. So here we have some heating in and sensors and going more into energy management in the future. And you might have seen this in Korea as well, yeah. The consumer goods, where especially the power tools are running very, very well in Korea as well. All more or less, and that we do since the 70s, I would say, is in this idea going green. So for cars, less emission, less fuel consumption. but we do the same for the power tools, yeah, or lawn mowers or wind turbines, or all is somewhere the idea behind bring this energy consumption down and support the environment. Now I come a bit, why do we think that we are more resilient as many other companies? And but I want to start again with, if you look around, you know, if you are a big company, protects you a bit might be, but you can fail dramatically. As you see with Nokia now, we had others, Kodak, RIM with the BlackBerry. So there is many big companies just going down. And we are of course aware that this can happen to us as well, yeah. That is clear, but we try somewhere to keep course, I would say. So this is are several success factors. I don't want to stress all of it, but what we want to do is the independence, financial strength, the innovative strength, and the strategic farsightedness. As all those three, I think we are a bit special to many others. Okay, we start with independence. And this has to do with this man we saw there in a high age already. And he did something what was very special at that time in Germany and would be very special in Korea today. He decided to give the company not to his son. And he had a son. And he loved his son, of course, yeah. But he was convinced if this company should see 100 years or more, this is the first thing that can go wrong. As your son is, how can I say, anyway, a wonderful person and whatever, but not necessarily a good manager, right? I mean, that is, would just be, how can I say, an incident if he's really brilliant as a manager. And he was driven in Germany. He could see at that time that companies were lost very often second to third generation or third to fourth generation. As you know, those guys, they grew up with a high living standard already and are not such hungry, might be, yeah, as the founder, and behave then completely different. Yeah. And there is then a high risk to lose the things. So in his last will, he gave us, how can I say, a headache, as that was very complicated, what he wrote down, how this company should be sorted. And the solution then finally was to go into such a foundation. So Bosch itself is principally a foundation, and not a foundation for tax reasons, okay? That was not the idea. He was driven by that this foundation should finance itself, more or less. That means we have we have a few shareholders, but not very important. And we have nearly no bank money. We finance ourselves over 100 years now. So we have only contact to banks due to relationship management, but we don't need the money. What is, in some time, very convenient. And I don't have anything against other models, yeah, don't understand me wrong, yeah. Mainly this is done completely different, but for us it's working very well, many years now. And then he was a philanthrope, I can say. Even stubborn, could be very harsh within the family, this guy. Could see it a bit, I think, in the face, right? But he was driven by doing good things. And so he said, well, the foundation every year, certain amount has to go in to all these nice things, especially connecting countries, understanding each other. And what we do is we put about, I don't know, 60, 70 million euros a year into this foundation for charity. And the rest is refinancing our innovations, our people, our invest. So that is the model. There are many specialists, experts saying this cannot work for a long time for such a big company, but they tell us 50 years now. Yeah, so we just hope we can go ahead like this. Okay, now coming to the core, I would say, as I do not know whether you have a big understanding of the automotive industry. There are very fancy cars, of course, yeah, and especially, I would say more your parents, they loved to buy a car. I hear more and more, young generation is not so much interested anymore, yeah. what is fine. Things change. But if you look at those car companies, and we have a very, very successful here in Korea, of course, with Hyundai Kia, you must principally know they don't do the innovation. And that is a surprise very often to engineers. So the innovation comes from companies like us, not just us, unfortunately. We have huge competitors, yeah. You know, all these, let me say, new systems functions, that is usually always coming from a supplier, from a big tier 1 supplier. And the car manufacturers have a good marketing department, and they weld a bit the steel plates and other things, yeah. But we do the rocket science in cars, I would say. And from the beginning, this was our big strength. And it's not just these innovative technologies, it's not just new things, new ideas, this automated driving car. It is cost as well, yeah. So cost innovation. How can you bring with new electronics cost down that was so expensive in mechanical systems, for instance, such kind of things. So we have a big, let me say, semiconductor and sensor area. To give you one example, and I come to this technology, we invented, that was in the 90s, an anti-skid program for cars, yeah, where you recognize car is not following the driver's wish. And this is horrible accidents, you know. If the car comes then across, turns around, and the other crashes in the side, you have no very short protection zone, so that is a killer, yeah. And for this system, we needed a very special sensor, so-called jaw rate sensor, who identifies that this is turning, and that was only existing in the aviation industry at that time, for $20,000 one system or so. I mean, you cannot put it in the car if the system is already more expensive than the whole car, right? And so we brought that down in the first step, and then miniaturized micromechanic system. That is just a small chip in today's time. And based on this, we built many other sensors, and you have one with you, I think, quite sure, if you have at least a Samsung or LG smartphone. So if you turn around and the picture turns, that are the sensors from our house. Good, what we do to protect us a bit, but you see here 40,000 researchers, 89 locations, and that gives an indication we are really global for decades, I would say. Give one example, China, we have now 40,000 people already, will have very fast 50,000. So we are everywhere, where cars are built at least. And the innovation is a backbone for us, where we think as long as we are really innovative, but that is, as the dynamics increase, not so easy, that's clear, to be somewhere ahead of the pack. But as long as we are innovative, as we have been in the past, that is one of the big protections we can have and support to survive the decades to come. Okay. Yeah, this gives you an overview about the automotive industry, the cars we are in. So there is I think it's hard to find a car where we are not in. And that is another big thing. The innovation, the diversity you can get if you are a big player. To be not dependent on one or two, you know, that is very, very dangerous, as they can blackmail you or they can run into problem. And as long as you are more or less everywhere, you can always win with the winners. You are always at the right place automatically. What we try with regions as well, that is clear. Europe does not look very good at the moment, as you know. So we were very happy that we are strong in Asia, where now just the growth is. And we are preparing for Africa. But you learn if you look at Africa, but I'm sure you discussed this already, that Europe lost more or less Africa as a European industry. Much too slow. China is in there everywhere. And that is amazing, yeah. The Europeans are not so fast usually with such things. Okay? I don't now touch everything, but that were just some breakthrough innovations we made over the years. This is more or less, you would not have the cars in Seoul today without this one. That was the first time when we brought electronics to the engine management. And this reduced the emissions about 98%. So if you think you would have cars as we had it in the 60s or beginning of 70s, you would not see your hand, you know, ahead of your eyes. Yeah. The emissions were just incredible. So this was a very, very big thing. ABS as well, I would say, as is anti-lock, where the brakes, you know, on snow, for instance, you hit the brake and the wheels are turning and not locking. If they lock, you cannot steer anymore front. If they lock at the back, even worse, the car skids, turns around. So that was a very important milestone, okay? And we have some others. I mentioned this system, yeah, that is saved 10,000s of lives, I would say. Yeah, that's a car. I mean, you have physical limits, yeah. I mean, when a car turns, it's on snow. You can only get it back on track if the physics allows. But within the physics, this is a great system. I need to say that as I was working on that as a system engineer, you know. And many other things. I don't go in. This is our slogan, Invented for Life, where we mean the things we do is environmental, many of it, and the rest mainly is safety, saving lives directly by airbag, by this ABS, ESP, and other functions. And there is much more to come leading up to automated driving, finally. And if you would have a car driving on its own, we know you could reduce accident rate by 90%. So it's mainly us causing the accidents. Question, and I touched it already, what about the last 10%? Who is guilty in this case? When machines, computers cause an accident, but we come to that. So we really made big steps to be clean, more economical, safer, and we're working a bit in this area as well if you think about seat adjustment, window lifts, all of that has to do with electrical motors and electronics. Okay? Coming to the far-sightedness, and that has now to do a bit, or is directly linked, I would say, to this independence. So if you pay, and we do that sometimes, for a new invention, if you pay in over 10 years $1 billion, no shareholder would allow that, you know. I mean, you want a return on your money in time. But you can do that if you finance the company yourself. Then you can be driven by other things. I mean that, how can I say, very often just fails as well, yeah? I mean, all the inventions, not all is becoming a success. But if it becomes a success, then it's huge what you can get back over 20, 30 years. And very often this is enabling us to be a bit ahead of some other companies. I mean, sorry, we are not ahead in all areas, unfortunately. I would love, but as I mentioned, we have good competitors as well. I touched just one, I think. We saw many of those things. This predictive emergency braking is something nice. That is on the road already. And that is really avoiding heavy injuries as well. What the system is doing is mainly based on radar sensors today, but we will now have stereo video sensors, all such things. If you drive and the system recognizes the algorithm, there will be an accident. Speed too high, you are too close, there will be an accident. Then the brake is actuated without your doing whatever to the utmost pressure, and it's a kind of emergency braking is starting. And that means you will have a damage, but by far not as severe as without this brake. Next step we are working on, that's clear, is to avoid completely the accident. That will start with pedestrians. We showed that in the Frankfurt Motor Show just this autumn. That means if a pedestrian, I mean that needs of course physical limits as well, but if a pedestrian is running across, you know, on the road, what very often happens and very often is fatal, then the system breaks down to zero and can avoid such pedestrian crashes. Okay? Should I go deeper? No, I talked a bit about pedestrian, yeah, that is somewhere clear. Okay? So, and now this is funny. Where are we today? Not so difficult. Where are we today? Are you here? So we are here somewhere. And if you look at this, it is more the most stupid car you can have of all three variants. Yeah? If you think about horses and you sit there fully drunken, falling asleep, you have still a chance that the horses, without making an accident, bring you home, right? So 120 years ago, we were more advanced than today. The horsepower is a bit lower than we have today, but that makes it even more dangerous. And then the future, and there could be the combination of some horsepower and capabilities with the smartness. And this is the world to come, but I think we have that on the next. I know we have where is the movie coming later? Okay, then we go to the next one. This is more or less, I talked a bit about what we have today on the road is this automatic cruise control, yeah, one radar sensor. That's already 10 years on the road, I would say, where you give on the motorway 100 or whatever is allowed, and the system is automatically braking and accelerating due to the traffic situation. That is an old thing already. Traffic jam assist, and what we see here, sensor data fusion. That means you have various sensors, radar, video, whatever, and then you need to combine the signals, but it's not easy. Yeah? You have to have complicated algorithms that really give a picture of what happens around. And this would be a very good thing for Seoul. As you know, then you could more or less in the morning, you are in this traffic jam, and the car is just following. Braking down, accelerating, following, but does not steer, yeah, as of now. But you have a chance to look at your smartphone, for instance, right? Send some messages. Pilot has then already a 360 degrees and can to a certain degree steer already, and then goes up to fully automated driving. Okay. We were, and that looks a bit special, I would say, right, this car? One of our test cars. We were a bit shocked, and that's already a couple of years ago, when Google announced they have a car running fully automated in California. I think it's already 5 years ago or so. As we always thought, this must be done by us, you know. And we had somewhere, how can I say, in our mindset, a limitation. We were so impressed by legislation. We thought no country will allow computers to drive on public roads. Yeah, we could not see that anything is moving in the legislation. But Google was able, in California, to get the allowance, and we're running a first car, yeah, and we couldn't believe. Then we had various things to do. First, to understand what is Google doing. Will they become now a competitor to us in the automotive industry? And we needed some time for us to really understand, even it's not so difficult. Any guess what Google might want? As you know, I know that they can earn money much easier than in the automotive business. This is not an easy business we are in. This is a price war, more or less. What they want to do is the drivers should have more time for the smartphones and pets to link into Google. You know, this is hours in Seoul, yeah? So you can, if you commute 2 hours a day, or some people 3, and they don't have to drive themselves, and they can go into the Google search engine. This is all money, direct money for Google. So it's a bit a different approach, but anyway, we started then very, very fast to catch up. As we think now this will come, as we saw California did it. So we expect a solution on the law side, let me say. And we have now cars running in California as well. We have some development center in Silicon Valley, in Palo Alto. But this one is running in Germany. So even the Germans allowed us now to run those cars. And they look a bit nicer meanwhile, yeah. This sensor is all integrated now, this famous top sensor. And we are preparing the cars. Okay, and we have a small clip. It's a bit an advertising clip, but I know all the people there. That's no actors. That really is the development team.
Imagine yourself getting into your vehicle in the morning and you just press the button and say, take me to work. This is really like science fiction. It's the future that we're working on.
time you drive in a car and it drives on its own, it's a very special situation.
She was working in my development team 10 years
Driving
ago.
the car myself now. As soon as I want to switch to automated mode, I press this button. And now the car is driving itself. Anytime I feel I want
Slightly
to
scared the lady, right? If you look at her face.
immediately I start the car.
The first thing is that the vehicle has eyes.
To see 360 degrees surround view,
It knows where it is located from a map, which it receives from a cloud-based server.
So we basically take information from sensors and we integrate them all into a common map where we can determine if there's a car next to us or if there's a car to the side of us. Then using this information, we basically plan a route through that area, which is we call a plan. That plan gets transferred to the low levels of the car, the braking and the acceleration. We say we want to steer here, we want to brake here, we want to accelerate.
97% of all accidents are caused by human failure. So a forward-thinking vehicle which takes over dedicated driving task would make the vision of accident and injury-free driving a reality.
It will totally change the way we use our infrastructures and our roads because now we can have cars running closer together, be more fuel efficient because they can drive optimally, much, much better than a human ever could.
You can use your time on a more productive way. Driving to the work, you can use the time to read the newspaper, to look at your emails, to call your colleagues, and be prepared when you arrive.
Bringing the people the benefits of automated driving in comfort and safety is good enough motivation for Bosch to go into this business. This technology is one of the most fascinating technologies. It's really cutting edge.
I can't even begin to think about the way it's going to change the world in the future. It's going to be unbelievable.
Well, so might be you start to think that you want a car now, okay? We are through already. I copied this from the Korean government, this eagle, you see. When we had G20 here, they were showing the eagle as one nice example how to react fast on changes. Flying very high, have the whole picture, then focus on something, shooting down, grabbing it. That is how we would like to be, but still a way to go, I think. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.